everyone, welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, my name is Anne and I love to do sewing tutorial. So today is all about making a crop jacket with a rounded collar. I know it's gonna be a little bit late, it's getting warmer out there. I just really love to share it to you, and if you're interested you can check out the description box below on how to get the pattern and you can sew along with me. And you can also tag me on Instagram with your finished product. I would really love to see it, and let's get started. So just a little bit overview with my materials. I'm going to use this very lightweight fox leather fabric. It has a bit of a stretch which is really nice, but of course you can use your choice of fabric, whatever you prefer. And for the facing, I'm gonna be using this very soft fur fabric, very fancy. The back is really rough, but it doesn't really matter because it won't be exposed anyway. And for the lining, the color is different, but it didn't really bother me. Plus it's stretched, which is good, and it's smooth and slippery, perfect for the lining. And just before I'm going to cut my fabric, I'm just gonna give it a really nice press, get rid of any wrinkles and creases. And once it's done, I'm gonna lay it flat in the surface and start cutting all the pieces. I like to trace everything rather than cutting it directly on my pattern because I wanted it to be really precise and perfect. So for the back panel, I'm going to split it in half, just to have a nice little detail at the back. Then just set them aside and let's work on the pockets. So these are the pieces for the pockets. There's 2 pieces for the top cover, 2 main fabric, and 2 lining. Like you see, I folded the top cover and I put the lining piece along with it, pin and sew about 1/2 of an inch seam allowance, then repeat on the other side. So in order to attach this pocket, I grabbed my pattern again, and using a cutter, I cut a rectangular hole in the front bodice pattern and then just trace it in the front panel. So there it is. Now I'll cut it open in the middle and cut a triangular shape in the corners. Place the other piece of the pocket, which is the main fabric, at the right side of the front panel. Should be right side facing together, and make sure that it is symmetrical to the upper and the bottom line. And in order to sew it exactly in the rectangular box, I'm going to draw a guideline over here and then pin and sew it directly. Then just repeat the same process to attach the other pair of the pocket. Once it's done, tuck them into the wrong side and smooth all the creases. Then make sure that you sew the upper and the bottom part. Then just join the pockets by sewing it all the way around and trim the excess fabric. And here we have it. Perfect pocket. So moving on to the back panels. I joined 2 pieces together. I sewed about 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. Then I just press the seams open nice and flat. Then just attach the front panel along with the back panel, and once again make sure to press all the seams open. It starts coming together, and next is to attach the collar. Match the center notch to the center seam of the back panel. Clip or pin all the way and then just sew them together. So it's gonna be a little hard, especially when you get in the curved side, but just sew it slowly and don't forget to ease the fabric so you won't lose the curves. And here we have it. It's looking so perfect and I love it already. Alright, so I also like to cut small notches, especially in the back neckline, to really help release the tension. Then just cut any unnecessary fabric in the joints, and I also tried to press the seams open as much as I could, but if you can't, that's fine, don't sweat it, it's gonna be okay. So moving on to the sleeves, find the center point and mark it. And from there, mark half an inch side by side, which is a total of 1 inch. And from there, measure about 1 1/2 distance and then make another 1 inch mark on the far side on your right. So this is exactly the same in the center part. It's 1 inch measurement with 3 divided marks. And then just balance them out by doing the left side. Then just sew the sides together and press the seams open. So I turn the sleeves right side out and then start making a fold based on the marks that I just did. Just like that, and make sure that the folds are going in the same direction and just attach the sleeve to the bodice. So this is just another way of making a simple puff sleeves. If you don't feel like making folds like this, you can also do a basting stitch and just gather this part together. It would be a lot easier, but I'll be doing it in my lining piece later on, so if you'd still hang around, I'll show you exactly how it looks. But I just want to say that there's not much of a difference, they're very much alike, but that will just really give you an option in which style you like better. Then just match the side seam of the jacket to the seam of the sleeve to attach them together. So whenever you get up here, just make sure that the center fold of the sleeves matches to the shoulder seams. It probably would look okay if it don't, but I just really felt like it needs to be symmetrical. I don't know, but you can adjust the position of the folds if you need to. Sew it together and repeat for the other side. So like I mentioned, I'm gonna be using this fur fabric for the facing. There's two ways you can cut it. It depends on what type of fabric you're going to use. So let's say you want to use the main frame fabric as your facing. It is just a plain fabric, right? So you can actually cut it as one whole piece. To do that, fold your fabric, make sure that the center part is positioned on the folded side of the fabric, and of course make sure that it can accommodate the length of your facing. But if you wanted to use similar fabric I have, especially fur texture like this, then you need to cut it into two separate pieces. So I fold the fabric so I have two mirrored pieces. Make sure that the direction of the fur is going down, so you need to position the pattern in the direction of the fur. Also keep in mind that this is two separate pieces, so we need to add at least 1/2 inch seam allowance, so when we sew it back together, the length would be equal to its original measurement. So what I do is I kind of rub the sides to get rid of excess fur, and whatever you do, do not shake it so the fur won't be flying everywhere. Then just sew the pieces together and then just attach it to the main frame. Then just pin it along with the main frame. It doesn't matter where you start, as long as you match all the notches, then you should be fine. And if you want the fur to lay flat, just kind of brush it down with a regular hairbrush. Then just continue to pin it all the way, and when I start to sew it, I'll start from the center part of the collar because I like to sew it in the direction of the fur. Then I'll just flip it and sew it in the other half. And once again, I'm going to cut small notches all the way around. Then I like to do a top stitching on the main frame, and again I will sew it starting from the center part of the collar so it won't be against the direction of the fur. Next is to attach the bottom facing. You can either do it like this, or you could also sew its side of this facing separate on both the main frame and the lining, but either way you take, it would eventually come up the same. But I kind of found this style so much easier, so if you decided to do it exactly just like this, then sew the ends of the facing in the wrong side, then fold it in half and pin it starting from the seam line of both the front side and the facing. Then just sew all the lining pieces together. And again, make sure to press the seams open to have a clean line. And also do the same thing with the sleeves. Sew and then press the seams open. So like I mentioned earlier, I didn't do folds on the sleeves lining, but I did a basting stitch and gathered the upper part. Also, don't forget to leave an opening in the sleeve so we can sew it right side out later on. So like I promised, this is how it looks with the gathered style. Whichever you prefer, I know it would look amazing. Next is to attach the lining to the main shell, and to do it, have both the main shell and the lining turn inside out. Okay, lay the lining piece on top of the main jacket. Make sure that the front sides are facing together. Also fix the sleeves, make sure that it's laying nice and straight just like the main frame. So as you can see, I folded the end of the sleeve lining, then carefully slide it into the end of the main sleeve. Just make sure to match all the seams in both the sleeve lining and the main frame, and then pin and sew it directly. So it should look like this, and when I flip it right side out, it should be where I need it to be. So you can either repeat it to the other side, or if this technique is so confusing for you, then you can do this one. Slip the lining piece directly on the main sleeve, then match the seams together and pin it. Then turn it inside out again because we obviously can sew it just like that. Then just reposition the first pin and pin the rest of it. You'll eventually come up in the same position with the first technique, but the point is, you could never go wrong in this one. And you know you did it right when you can create a big circle like this. Next is to sew the lining piece into the facing. Again, put the lining piece on top of the main frame. Both the front are facing together and just match all the edges. Then just sew it all the way except the bottom part. So you could also attach a tiny piece of fabric under the pit area to really connect both the main frame and the lining, but I would really recommend that you would do it last right after you close the bottom lining. I also added my personal tag on it before I totally closed the lining. It just really makes it feel so special. Then I just connect the neckline together so it won't feel so separated, and like you see, I just had a collar tuck in between, and I pinned both the neckline of the lining and the main shell together. And that makes the collar sits in place, and it's looking good so far, so I'm happy with it. And just finish the jacket by closing the bottom part. Then just turn it inside out, and don't forget to close the open spot in the sleeves. And congratulations, you just made you a jacket. And so this is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again next time. Happy sewing!